Trying to get organized here. I've featured a couple new different types of, how can I say it? Material. I've featured on here a couple of times. They went okay. But I had heard this story. Couldn't find it for the longest time. And I'm like, what the hell? What did I do with it? Like, I couldn't, didn't save it or anything. This was a crazy story, man. You talk about life and how it's just, I don't know if I know there are times where I get like into deep thoughts about it and like not wondering like where we came from, what's our purpose. No, like I guess I'm afraid of dying. And in my opinion, I think most people who tell you that they're not are just bullshitting you. I think in a way there's always a fear of something of the unknown. That's why you have, let's just say, and this is probably a very poor analogy, but let's just say you throw a young kid in prison for the first time. I mean, he's scared as shitless because he doesn't know what the hell's gonna happen. Or, let's say people who are scared of, if we are to believe that there's such thing as, evil spirits, ghosts, things like that, we get scared shitless. There are very few. And I gotta say, I gotta give props to these guys, because these guys who speak, I don't even want to do them disrespect. I'll just say they're, Middle Eastern. I want to say Jordan or so, somewhere around there, that they go on these ghost hunts themselves, and usually they go by themselves. And man, these guys have shown more courage than any other ghost hunter freaking thing, fake or not. Like, these guys show courage. And I mean, they get scared just like anyone else, but I mean, they go running after it. I mean, they'll give themselves time to like freak out or whatever, wait a couple seconds, but then they go chasing after this. And I'm like, man, these dudes, like, I thought I had cojones when I tried ghost hunting, and I freaked the F out. And I think a lot of the ghost hunting was like, you work yourself up so your mind starts to, see things or, whatever. But just the fear of the unknown. And that's what I think, when you think about death, it's just a fear of the unknown. Like, I'm Christian. I feel like I've left, behind a very good life. I'm still going to try to do that, do right by people, I have a kind heart. I'm not trying to put myself out there like, oh, you're some kind of angel, because I'm far from it. But, a large majority of my life was spent, working with people with disabilities and, vocational training at the Denver VA Medical Center. I mean, I had a heart for a lot of these things that were going on, that when I would fucking think of something so stupid like, oh, I can't believe I didn't go get Madden on this day, or I can't believe I didn't do this. It's like, fuck, dude, look in the mirror and see how menial your problems are against other people's. That's how fucking petty you are. And that really got me thinking, like, yeah, there's people who've been through a lot of shit. And here I am bitching about something so small and insignificant that I wouldn't even dare fucking say that in front of somebody who is going through what a lot of the people I worked with went through. So without further ado, I want to play on this, because this is gripping. It really is.
All right, my name is Ross Capicchione. I'm from Macomb, Michigan, suburb outside of Detroit.
Start with your story of
How it happened?
Yeah.
Well, it happened like I was a junior in high school, 17-year-old punk shit. Just doing my thing, skating, hanging out.
What I mean is basically there's no...
This kid supposedly was supposed to be my friend, and I knew this kid for 10 years prior before this day. He asked me, hey, can you give me a ride to my cousin's house, down in the D? All right, yeah, well, like, what part? Like the west side or the east side? And he's like, the east side. And I was like, nah, man, I don't got no business on the east side, He's like, no, it's cool, man. Like the east side, that's like 7 Mile, like, it's like a third world country. The police, they won't stop and get out the car. They won't pull you over. If there's gunshots, they'll wait till everything's clear and they'll come pick your body up off the street and that's it. He's like, please, man, please. I'm like, no. So like a week goes by, you know, I'm still telling him no, like, because I had a feeling like, don't go down there. Kept asking me, I'll give you $30 for gas, all this shit. I'm like, all right, whatever, you know, you're my.
I know they sometimes say, you know, trust your instincts. Trust your first instincts, trust your second instincts. I mean, what is it? Because, you know, I've trusted my first instincts, and my first instincts were right, and I fucking ignored them, and shit, been paying the price for it ever since. You know, I know my life would be, I know all of ours would be drastically different. I know mine for the better if I would have did just what I should have done many, many years ago. I don't know if I would have worked in the music industry. I don't know if I would have became an actor. I don't know if I would have, I don't know what I would have been doing. Would I be happy? I think yes, in the grand scheme of things, absolutely yes. I think I'd still be like pretty fat, but I would hope that I would have gotten that drive to have lost weight. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about marriage. The one that I let go. The only woman that have ever loved me when I was fat as fuck. When I could walk around somewhere and just be noticed automatically just because I'm, you know, 6'5", 330 fucking pound football player. And, you know, there were certain things about it that were fun. I remember, for instance, they already had the liquor. I was just invited to the party. And so, you know, I'm walking in and I just remember everybody greeting me. And there's certain things that stick in your head, you know, and I just remember what a cool, you know, feeling that was. But I remember, you know, walking in and all my friends like, yo, what's up, Cisco? Yo, what's up, man? How's it going? Yo, one after another. And one of my boys, his brother's like, God damn, man, I thought Michael Jackson walked in the fucking house. And then he just gave me, you know, the brotherly handshake and side hug. And, you know, the felt good to know that, hey, you know, people like you, people respect you, not just for what you could do for them, but just because you know, you treat people with respect. And that's what I've always done. And with this girl, only girl to like me being fat, and by far, to this day, not that looks has everything to do with it, but easily the most beautiful woman, I mean, probably honestly, almost ever seen. We have this place, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about my, you know, first instinct that fucked up, and then I'll get back to the video. But we have this place that's called, it used to be called Aqua Golf. Now it's under the city, and it's, yeah, it's changed a little bit. But they had like a miniature putt-putt. And, of course, when you go to, you know, to those golf swinging places, you know, driving places, this and that. Nowadays, I know they have those, you know, like real interactive ones where they bring you drinks and all that. Now this is just like laid out, you know, kind of like in a semicircle. And I remember she brought her sister along, and her sister was equally as beautiful. And I brought my friend along, kind of like a double date. I don't know if she was like really into him, but her and her sister were both equally beautiful. And as we're walking along and we're halfway to where you order, you know, like a basket of balls or, you know, play miniature golf or something, you hear clubs stopping as we're going along. And you see heads just completely turned. And I mean, I have people who could vouch for this. And I was like, wow, this is crazy that these two, because they sure as shit weren't looking at me or my boy. My boy, you know, he got girls, man. He was, you know, had that all-American look, you know, that skater, not even that skater, man. He was like, you know, athletic. He was funny. He was outgoing. He was charmful. I mean, he was all the things like, you know, a girl at that time and at this time now would want. You know, just an all-around nice, down-to-earth guy. You know, he did some funny shit, but all-around funny guy. And I know they weren't looking at him. And so we play around a putt-putt and we leave. And this girl proposes to me at 18 years old, then again at 19 years old with the, I'm not going to name the player, but she said, yo, there's a certain Denver Bronco player that, you know, really has been wanting me to, you know, date him, to see him steady, you know, long term, this or that. And I'm like, well, have you, you know, had sex with him or anything? She's like, no. She's like, that's why I want to ask you if you'll marry me again. And I said, I don't get it. I said, why me? Like, you could have any guy you want. Like, you know, with me, like, I basically told her, like, with me, she could easily cheat. And I made her cry. And when I did that, I knew I fucked up. I was like, that's not how I meant it. But there was no coming back from that. After that, she went on to date him for a number of years. And I had horrible timing, man. The year I got divorced is the year that she left him. And the day I got in contact with her, she had just gotten married. And I was like, fuck. It just, the universe gave you its chance. You fucked up on it. You got to live with it. And that's the one thing that I always fucking regret in my life.
My friend, I'll take you down there. I go to school that day, and I get out, and everything seems normal. We go to the gas station, he gives me the money for gas. We drive down there. So I get off, and it's just like I get that eerie feeling like you're in a bad spot. But it's like broad daylight out, beautiful day like that today. And we're driving, and he's telling me where to go, and we pull out on the street, and you know, there's people outside, and he's like, all right, that's the house right there. So he's like, you know, pull around back in the back. Like when I turned the corner to go right, like I seen it was like caution, like do not enter and all this shit, but I still, you know, because I knew him for so long, I just thought, you know, it's the D, it's, you know, whatever. There was a fence, like a grass area, my vehicle, and then houses right there. So it was like, I wasn't in the middle of nowhere or anything. And like I get out, and he gets out, and like it's only a couple seconds, I'm looking around. My ears are ringing, I'm like, man, that was close. And I kind of just glanced down, and my arm's just hanging off like a zombie. And I'm just looking at it, I'm like, yeah, this is, you know, yeah, it's not real. And I kind of shake it off and look again, and it's just hanging off my arm. And I'm like, okay, then it kicks in, like blood, like flowing, like an animal. And then I look up, and this kid's just holding a shotgun, like 10 feet away from me, just holding it right at me. And I asked him, I said, like, did you shoot me? And he just blew a hole in my chest like this big. So after that, I just dropped to my knees. I lost all my air. I couldn't see. I remember like being on my, like, you know, on my hands and knees, and I felt the barrel of the gun on my head. I felt this barrel just shaking still on my head, and so I smacked it away. But it was a shotgun, so it sprayed. So it still like hit me in the head really good, but it didn't blow my head off like a watermelon just to pieces. So after that, I got a little sight, and I was like, okay, I'm still moving. Like, I don't know what's going on with my head, but I know I'm alive. And I remember I looked up, and he was just staring at me. And he took the butt of the gun and like smashed me in the face with it. Knocks my teeth out. Like I fall back, but I could still see at this point, and I don't understand like how I can see because I have so much damage to like my lung and heart.
God, look at that. Jesus Christ. You know, thank God for his guardian angel on that day that he's still with us, because, you know, and I've worked with so many people like him. I mean, none of them may have had, you know, a friend do this to them, but, you know, in war, it just could get awful, and, golly. Thank God he's alive, man, for real, that he could tell this story.
I felt like these hands like in my pocket digging for my car keys. When he's trying to grab my keys, like I ended up on my stomach. And I look up and I see my Jeep Commander driving away, just driving away, flying away. And I said, okay, well, either I stay laid down in this spot right here and die, or I try to get up. So I try to push myself up, but like take my left arm, take it right out. So gunshot to the chest, bigger than a soup bowl, and then my head all mashed up. And I'm trying to push myself off the ground. Kept trying, and I'm like, all right, you know what? One more. I'm gonna try it one more time. And I pushed up, and then out of nowhere, I felt these arms from underneath me pick me up. And I remember like swinging, trying to grab someone, and there was no one around. And I was just like standing up still, like a drunk, zombie, just like. And I got this like a shove, like someone shoved me from behind to go forward. I must have got about 7-8 feet. I just fell straight down. Because I remember I hit the ground like on my stomach. I'm like, all right, well, I went as far as I could. This shit's hurting like too much. Like, let me just close my eyes and start relaxing. And sure enough, I closed my eyes and all the pain started going away. And then I'd wake up real fast and be like, this is not right. I just got shot 30 seconds ago. How's the pain stopping? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Go back to sleep. That's a good feeling when you're sleeping. So I'd pass back out a little bit, and then I'd be like dying. And then I'd wake myself up, like my own voice, third person. And, hey, man, get up, man, you're dying. And then like, I did that, and then I heard, hey, hey. And I like started hearing this guy, and he's like running over to me. So when I fell, there was like a probation officer at a stoplight, and he seen me fall out of the woods, like all bloody, broad daylight. Then I felt his hand on my back, like, hey, man, you're fine. Don't close your eyes. Come on.
Try not to get emotional. Wow. That is... Talk about being... I mean, I'm at a loss for words right now.
Ambulance is coming, they're coming. And I'm like, man, like I just want to sleep. Leave me alone, man. But then in my head, I'm like, no, you don't, because if you fall asleep, you're sleeping forever. And I remember like getting on the stretcher, and they're putting me in the stretcher, and just like the facial expression of the paramedic was just like, just a stunned look on his face, but in the same time telling me I looked great. I looked beautiful, like you're gonna be fine. And then it just like blacked out, and I went to I was outside of the ambulance on my skateboard, filming it, like rolling telephoto filming of the ambulance, and the doors open, everyone's panicking, and I see my legs coming out, and like once it gets to my head, blacked out. I was pronounced dead on arrival right there. John Doe had nothing on me. They said, Doc, this kid's, gone, and Doc said, no. I'm here, let me try. Like when I was pronounced dead on arrival, like,
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but emergency room doctors and most doctors in general have the highest rate of suicide amongst any profession in the world. There is this, I am subscribed to it. It's called Rare Photos, and there's this heartbreaking one of this doctor right outside the emergency room. The backstory is that he just lost a 19-year-old patient who was rushed to the emergency room. It didn't say what it was just said a 19-year-old female. Didn't say how, didn't say, what had happened to her to be there, but he's outside and he's kneeling down just, and the guy describes a, emergency room doctor outside after losing 19-year-old female patient. And I mean, you could just feel this overwhelming feeling like, the shit that they have to go home with, knowing, I mean, I know the oaths they take, and I know, you can't just, even though you see so much, and you don't just you become so, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just used to seeing certain things that you try not to display those emotions, but especially with doctors, you cannot, as a doctor, if you go and you ask for medical help, such as a psychologist, you then have that on your record permanently, and then unless you're a chief, then you're screwed, because they're going to say that you can't perform your job duties. So a lot of these doctors don't get that help that, you know, a lot of other people would who are going through, you know, traumatic, you know, syndromes. And without, you know, the proper care, it's no wonder why a lot of them commit suicide.
Throw him in the body bag, he's dead. Like, the doctor said no, like, you know, I'm gonna try to help him. This man doesn't know who I am. He could have said, yeah, he's dead, all right, I'm going back home. He said, no, like, I feel something, I'm gonna try. Did the heart surgery, gave me 24 hours to, you know, see if I was still breathing on the ventilator. After 24 hours, I was still alive. They fixed my arm and my head, and I woke up 3 days later. I remember, like, waking up and it was still all white, like, white everywhere, and I'm like, dead, dead. I'm 17, I'm dead. And then it starts to, like, come in, and it's like, I see curtains, like a frickin' oxygen tank, and I'm like starting, and then out of nowhere, bam, perfect vision again, I'm in a hospital, and then I'm like tied down to the bed because I got the breathing tube in me. I got this thing pumping air into my lungs, so I start freaking out. But there was a nurse there the whole time, though. I didn't even notice her because I was all tied down, and I just hear screaming like, he's awake, he's awake. And I see her like running out of the room, and then like running back, like 3 more nurses and the doctor, just this woman just coming around the corner, flying, like throws her clipboard in the air, runs up to me, oh my God, you look beautiful. Like, and in my head, I'm like, what do you mean? I look beautiful. I can't even, what's going on? Like, am I tied down? And then she's like, all right, 1, 2, and like on 2, she pulled that thing out of my throat, man. I got to breathe again, like real air, like.
Now, I've never been incubated, but when I was a kindergartner, so I was like 5, 6 years old, you know, most people who ever have their appendix problems will get it removed. Mine actually burst inside of me, and I got let home from school because I wasn't feeling good. And of course, you know, you're on the toilet, you're thinking, okay, I got stomach problems, whatever. But then I started really turning jaundice, my eyes, my skin, everything. And you know, I'm pretty dark complected. I was a lot more dark complected when I was a little kid, and so they rushed me to the hospital. They get me there, and that's when they found out, like, you know, his appendix bursted in him like several hours ago. If we don't get him in for emergency surgery, you know, he's gonna die. They had me in the hospital for 3 months in intensive care. Well, 2 months for intensive care, and then a month after for recovery. But what they did was, they would, you know, I was so out of it, of everything that was going on, but they would stick these tubes up my nose, and these tubes, of course, would go down, you know, past, you know, into your throat. And what it was doing is, because I could see over my shoulder, is that it's just pumping out all this, like I can't, like it looked like, honestly, just this green, yellowish mush that it just keeps on pumping all this shit out of me. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is all this? Like, I don't get it. Like, and I was like that for months, and like they wouldn't let you sleep, which I always tease. I think that was the cause of my insomnia, because every, like, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes, they'd come and prick my finger, check my blood, and then I'd go back to sleep, and they would do the same thing. And you know, they're not giving a little kid any sleeping agents, and whatever pain, I'm sure it was just like children's Tylenol or something a little bit harsher. I'm sure it's nothing, you know, big, but I mean, I was in so much pain for that long. And you know, I remember I was never really big with teddy bears when I was a little kid, but I found peace and solace with this one little rabbit teddy bear thing, and I don't know why. It was so weird. And you know, just they never, it was so weird because they would come in, and the wound was about like this much open, like maybe a half an inch to an inch. They would just come in here with these deep swabs, and they would just clean in there. And they never sutured it. They never glued it or stapled it. They just let it close on its own. And man, when I started to you know, recover physically, those tubes on my nose were just the most awful feeling I ever had. Oh.
You know, of course I coughed up a ball of tar and BBs, but everyone was just looking at me like, you're alive. Like, you're breathing on your own right now. Like, what's your name? I don't know. What year is it? What? Who's the president? Huh? Is there any way we could contact anyone you know with a phone number? I was like, 2-7. Out of anything, my name, anything, the year, only thing I remembered after that was my father's phone number. For 3 days, my family didn't know. My father was outside, like, spraying out the garage, and he got the phone call from the hospital saying, I think we got your son, he's been shot, but he's alive. So, I don't know how my parents had it. I don't know how that feels, like, you're a father. Like, so, I don't know. It chokes me up because, like, it's crazy, but they came down there, and I remember, like, I seen my mom come in and my dad, and I'm looking at him, I was like, Mom, you can't get mad at me right now. She's like, mad? You're alive, you're alive. After, like, the 4th day, they were like, all right, get up, you know, start walking, like, let's go. I'm like, let's go where? He's like, you're going home tomorrow. I'm like, it's been 5 days. He's like, dude, you're going home. What do you want to live in a hospital? You want to go live your life again? I'm like, sir, I got a hole in my chest the size of a teacup. He's like, listen, Ross, I'll give you a tip of advice. You live through this, you're going to be okay. Just go home, live your life, don't hang out with these kids anymore. After 5 days, they sent me home. So, like, I'm shot, you know? My parents are asking me questions. My dad's asking me, what are we going to do about it? And I'm like telling him, like, Dad, I know who did it, you know? The next day, like, out of a movie, like, these men in suits came in. And my dad's like, yeah, can I help you? And they pull out their, you know, badges and FBI, you know. They say the kid's name. And I'm like, yeah, I know him. That's who shot me. He's like, oh, could you identify him through a picture? I was like, of course. Pull out a picture of the kid. I said, that's him right there. He said, Ross, we have him in custody. I said, how? I just woke up like 2 days ago. I just learned how my name again, like how to talk. He's like, the day blank shot you, he called blank and told him. So this kid shoots me and calls his buddy and says, hey, I shot Ross, he's dead. The kid's like, no, you didn't, you're lying. Because imagine another 15-year-old kid saying to a 15-year-old kid, you know? So after they hang up, the kid he told calls the police on him. And he was met by a SWAT team right at his front yard. Got him. And like all I had to do was go to court and testify against him. I went in there, man, in a wheelchair, head still stapled, no teeth, 105 pounds because of all the blood I lost, arm cast, and I sat in front of 40 of his family and him, and he couldn't look me in the eye. He had his head down the whole time, and I had to tell my story like this to everyone. That was the first one. I had to go back to final sentencing, and that's when I was healed. Like, so I walked back in the courtroom the second time. He comes out in a purple suit, top hat, cane, and sunglasses. This is the kid who shot me at court, smiling, while his family cheers him on, says, like, way to shoot Ross, called me a coward because I was taking the justice route. Like, I didn't lower myself to his standards and go try to kill him. I spoke, and the judge, like, looked at this kid and said, you know, said his name, and he said, yo, Ross, thank you. And the kid just looked at the judge like, what do you mean? He's like, because if you would have killed Ross that day, you would have got life in prison. But since Ross is a warrior and survived, you get a second chance, and you just slammed the gavel on him. He said, go have fun in prison for 35 years. Well, I found out that the cause of the shooting was because he had to join a gang. That was his initiation was kill a random person. He had to pick someone, so he just thought out.
You know, I've mentioned this experience a couple of times. I've almost died 3 times from gunshots. The first time I wanted a starter's jacket, and for those of you like around my age will know there was a big old craze on starter jackets and kids getting killed for them. And of course I couldn't. My idol growing up was Michael Jordan. Like, you know, he's the one that I looked up to outside of my family members. Like, I wanted to be a basketball player. I just happened to be a football player. But, yeah, I, like, couldn't get a Chicago Bulls one because all the gang banging and shit. I didn't care for the Oakland Raiders. I mean, I'm a Denver Bronco fan, and the Raiders are, like, our number one hate, you know, team. So I wasn't going to buy one of those. So I guess a neutral one I liked. They had just came out. It was the San Jose Sharks. And I bought one of those, and about maybe 12 days into wearing it, I'm walking home one day. and this dude about my age now, about in his 40s, runs up on me, and I know a little bit about guns, and puts the barrel straight to my chest, and I could tell immediately it's a 45, and I could feel the cold hard still, just because it was a little cold outside, and I could feel it because he went under my undershirt, like just not under my undershirt, but on my t-shirt where the jacket wasn't zipped up at. He's like, "Give me your fucking jacket," and I'm like, "Are you serious?" Like I wasn't really interpreting like what the hell's going on here. And he's like, "Give me your fucking jacket." So I take it off. I'm like, "Man, this is bullshit." Hand it to him. He goes running off. And this is how like I'm perplexed. I was just like so out of it or whatever that a cop drives by like 25 seconds later. I didn't flag him down. I didn't do anything. I'm just like in a daze. But I wasn't scared. I was just, in a daze. The second time, I go and pick up one of my, I always talk about him, the guy who married my cousin. Well, I would always hang out with his family members too. And so me and one of his family members, I go and pick him up. And this is when I had my Eclipse all like, just, that thing sounded like a beast because I had this custom built box, these dual amps, dedicated. I mean, this visual equalizer. I mean, that thing just bumped. And like you couldn't even turn it up halfway without like blowing your eardrums out. And so we get in and I have it bumping and all that, and all of a sudden we start feeling like something hitting us, and it's like, I don't know. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like we're looking around. I'm looking at the roof and all that, and then he's like, "Somebody's shooting us, fool!" And then I turn down the music, and this car speeds off. And these dumbasses were just going around fucking randomly shooting at fucking cars. And they recovered the bullets because they're like, "Can you meet us here at this time, blah, blah, blah." So I go there, and a couple of the bullets they shot through the speaker. So they were up on a higher vehicle because, mine wasn't naturally lowered. It was just, well, let me rephrase that. It wasn't lowered, it was just naturally low. And they were shooting down at it. And all these speakers, with the two speakers in the back, they caught like 5 or 6 in different speakers, and the whole back window was shot out and everything, and that was the glass hitting us. So that was the second time. The third time, we were at this party out in the mountains, kind of like close to where I have my property in Grand Lake, and people out there, they have guns. They that's just it. I'm not the biggest gun proponent, but I understand people's rights. And as we're fucking out there, this idiot got drunk and didn't realize there was people in the direction, which was me and a few others, and starts fucking firing a handgun, which its range is 400 feet. Shotgun range is like, nowhere near that close. And he doesn't realize we're over there, and we could literally hear the bullets like whizzing by us, and we're like, what the fuck? And so, 3 times now, my guardian angels have watched over me. So, thank you, God, for that.
Would be the guy to pick. Yeah, that happened in 2007. Been about 4 years. I'm telling you, the first 2 were the hardest. It gets hard, like waking up and knowing like someone tried to like shoot you down. You got to get through that every day. Like seeing people. Like I get on a bus, public bus, I'm freaking out the whole time. Like I don't trust anyone on the bus. For a while, my mother had to like take care of me as like how you do an infant, like washing, changing, feeding. Like I'm 17 years old and I got my mom bathing me. I can't move. I got no hand. I can't talk. I'm all weak. And my dad and mom were like, "Ross, like come on, like the doctors say, like give it time." And then all my friends like coming to see me, hanging out with me. Like started getting more positive. One day I woke up and I felt different. Like I was like, you know what, this is my world. That's what I like every time in physical therapy, like I would try to do something, mess up, I'd be like, well, it's like a nollie backside flip. Like you're gonna
I want everybody watching this to know that when you seriously fucking put your mind to something, there isn't a goddamn thing you cannot do. I told myself for the longest time that I would work in the music industry, and that's exactly what I ended up doing. Second thing I said is I am not going to be a fat ass for the rest of my goddamn life. So what I did is one day I woke up, fucking said, you know what? Today's the last day I'm gonna gorge on any fast food. I ended up writing me a fucking slogan that I taped above my bed. So every morning I woke up, I looked at this slogan and just did it every single day. So if you put your mind to it, just know, you know, whatever shit you're going through, you know, if you have the power to change it, because there's some shit people could go through and they don't have the power to change it. But if you have the ability to change it, but you feel stuck, you feel lost, you feel like you can't move forward, believe me, you can. There are ways to get around things. And I'm not saying that it's easy, because believe me, when you go from weighing 330 pounds and eating probably, you know, on average 4,000 calories a day, I mean, it's an addiction. Food's an addiction. Smoking cigarettes is an addiction, you know. Drinking is an addiction. Each and every one of them, I'm just like, you know what? I don't need to fucking smoke. I don't need to fucking drink. Screw that. You know what? The hardest one was losing weight. And I tell you, put your mind to anything, man. Not to sound corny, you know, put your mind there and you accomplish anything. No, you really can. You just gotta fucking go for it.
Mess up until you try it and land it. When I'd mess up, I'd be like, no, I'd backside flip, and then I'd get it. Like, I'd do something with my hand and like put the thing in, and the doctor would be like, oh yeah, good job, like you did it. And I'd be like, So I like started living my life as like skateboarding. It's been working. I'm very blessed. I see it now. Like when before, I'm like, you know what? Like I'm so unlucky. Like I went through all this getting shot, and really, like I look at it now after like maturing and growing up. Like it just gave me like a whole new leg up on life and how I can live my life, and it's crazy. Like it's like makes me happy to be alive, and just like so grateful for everything. Like I just look at what I got. I don't look at what I don't have. Look at what I have.
Man, that's heartwarming and touching. I hope you guys definitely check this whole thing out.